Hello, welcome to everybody. Welcome to the Barcelona Design Week Pro. We are here at the Roca Barcelona Gallery, a fantastic place for design, architecture, and also sustainability. We are very happy to host this Service Design Challenge here in this building, but the only sad thing is that you are not all here with us. Maybe next year, in the next edition, we will be happy to welcome you. I'm thanking Inge from Service Design College and Philips because they let us the opportunity to have this event, this important event in our program this year. Design weeks are platforms, are communities for professionals, for citizens, for companies, where the participation of young talent is essential to build a better world. So this makes a lot of sense to have this activity in our program. We are in a moment of transformation where sustainability and circularity are on top of our priorities, and design is more needed than ever. This challenge, which aim is to contribute giving value to people and planet, improving our lives, is a key activity of this year program. So only rest to me to say good luck to all participants and enjoy the event of this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. Welcome, everybody. On behalf of the Student Service Design Challenge 2021, I would also like to welcome you, and I'm looking forward to the winner announcements, which will take place within an hour, so bear with us. And I would like to look back. So in January, 70 students teams joined us for this challenge, the second edition of the challenge. And in the past 5 months, they have been guided and coached intensively by our coaches to develop and design a service which we call a closed loop service, to engage users, people, and become part of a better world, a circular economy, like Isabel is saying, right? And it's so important that designers are involved and taking a stand and taking their role in making that happen. And so the service is focused on users, how to involve users and make them part of and enable them to change their behavior in becoming more circular, but also to facilitate the introduction of circular design into still traditional linear industrial processes. And before I would, if we have the announcement in around an hour, I would like to introduce you to someone that who would like to give a talk and inform you and inspire you on circular innovation. And that's Chris Grandam. He is Executive Director at IDEO, and I would like to invite him to come on our virtual stage. And let me introduce him briefly to you. So he's involved in supporting organizations and to let them innovate and change behavior and become part of a circular economy and take their role and become maybe even a front runner in that sense. And he's also involved and is in many design-led initiatives together with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, who is also involved in this challenge. And for instance, one of the initiatives is the Circular Design Guide. And I would like to invite you to find this online, have a look at it, and also try to see if you can use it in your practice. But before doing so, stay with us, listen to Chris talk, and I would, hand it over to him, and I will come back after his talk. Chris, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction and the opportunity to be part of today. It's been a real privilege and an honor to take part as one of the judges as well in this competition. I'll address comments particularly today to designers in the audience, which I'm hoping there are many, but also particularly student designers. So we hope you've enjoyed the experience of developing your ideas in this competition, or just we hope that you generally enjoy the experience of circular design. And of course, system design in particular is such a special experience. The phenomena of seeing more connections and creating new wholes, if you like a new sort of holistic kind of phenomena that is a system, is such an exciting thing. That whole sort of seeing more connections, connecting the dots, is I think uniquely fulfilling as a design experience. And I know as judges we've been really inspired by the participants' desire to really redesign everything. That much is apparent from their entries, which is really inspiring. In some ways, I'm very jealous of it sounds kind of like a cliche, but the younger generation of designers, I'm sure, which you generally are if you're a student, for example. I'm jealous of your generation in the sense that as a cohort of designers, I think you are at an advantage. I think you see differently. You all grew up with a digital and sharing economy, into a world that is very aware of the existential threat of man-made climate change, human-made climate change, I should say. And you will be, by and large, less invested in the linear economy financially, for example, and consequently in outlook, actually, I think. You can potentially take bigger risks in terms of where you apply yourselves. And I sense that, from my experience, of interacting with many students, is I sense that you place a greater emphasis on mutuality, on openness and transparency. And I think, we saw in your work a belief in social learning to drive innovation. And I would encourage you to embrace that advantage. So I'm just going to share some slides and just say a few more things. So let's try and do this. Okay, so I've been leading our circular economy innovation practice at IDEO for a few years now. We've been involved closely with circular economy probably for about 6 years. Working with a wide range of clients across the sort of corporate and also at the NGO space. And my personal background is as a strategy and systems designer, and I work a lot on innovation approaches, which is where I'm just going to focus some thoughts today. Working with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation a lot, and the Exeter University Business School. And I wanted to share some thinking on, what I think is going to be the biggest shift in design that we're going to see, in a generation, which is this move to systems design and particularly regenerative system innovation and regenerative system design. I wanted to share really a couple of inspiration tools that we use, which I thought might be interesting for you. But before I do that, just wanted to set a bit more context, which is that to realize the transition, to a circular economy, we need to see a shift in the way business systems work, of course. The circular operating system, if you like, looks quite different. A fit circular economy system creates and circulates value. It doesn't, it doesn't capture and extract value. It creates and circulates value in quite different patterns. This also requires quite a different mindset. And I think your generation may well have the advantage there. The mindset that needs challenging is the extractive mindset, of course, and that is, I think, quite preoccupied with the idea that we must dominate, in the fight over scarcity, and where individualism always trumps collaboration. And it's a shift away from that, a shift. What I think we're seeing and what we need to have is a shift away from that, a shift away from seeing ourselves at the center of everything, sometimes even as an independent kind of entity at the center of everything, which is a weird thing as well, to something way more relational. So how do we work on that mindset? Well, I wanted to share a couple of thoughts on that. One thing that we do in our design process. For example, in a design sprint or boost, whatever you want to call them, sort of short activity, is something called soulful thinking. And what this is, we start doing this by kind of asking questions around purpose. So we ask people who are participating in this design process, why they are there, and actually kind of, get them to reflect on, do they think the innovation task is any different to a regular innovation task? Why does it matter? And then actually we read a poem about nature. And I typically use Mary Oliver's fantastic poem, The Summer's Day, which is a reflection on the truth and beauty of nature. It's got some great lines in it, including the fantastic concluding lines, "Tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life." And reading this poem it's a great way to move from an efficiency kind of mental model that we really sort of sit with in a lot of our working lives, to linear thought patterns, and it kind of just feels good to lift your thinking into a more expansive frame and way of thinking. It's also a way to quieten our egos and decenter ourselves in the context of appreciating a wider system. And it's something that is incredibly useful for opening up the mind in advance of kind of absorbing new ideas. So it's something we kind of practice quite a lot in our design process, that kind of soulful thinking state, if you like, at the beginning as inspiration. So I heartily recommend staying connected, as I'm sure you will as part of your lives anyway, but staying connected to natural system inspiration in order to keep open your aperture for non-linear soulful thinking and your sense and for keeping your sense of purpose strong. People often ask, can I give them the ultimate circular economy case study, which is a question I get a lot and is kind of understandable. But the truth is, the ultimate circular economy case study is probably an ecological system. And so I always say go and visit a forest for that reason. And forest systems help us think about value creation and exchange on many different levels, and in ways that offer us the potential for a more resilient economic system. In the forest system, value is circulating and regenerating all the time through a myriad of exchange networks beneath the soil that ensure all core materials in the system are interoperable and available to the whole system and abundant. Shared data networks, if you like, ensure the ecology is resilient as resources are distributed to ensure the growth of all future value producers, and system value multipliers. Because it combines many distributed but interconnected systems, it builds resilience through diversity, and healthy competition serves to reinforce system health and balance, to name just a few of their attributes as fit circular systems. So we suggest people before the session go out and into the forest and think about why, or it could just be a park actually, but think about why an ecology is such an amazing circular economy, and to bring back a artifact from that natural environment that you can use for storytelling purposes to share, what kind of inspired you about that system. So we have in the design sprint, we have people kind of just start to discuss what makes forests such effective circular systems. And we have a number of kind of provocation cards. We tend to share a few sort of videos that you can find on YouTube that really go into those details about forest systems. And then we have a few provocations, such as asking, how are you producing with your decomposers in mind? How are you creating more value in the system by using strategies of abundance, such as maximizing interoperability of what you produce and opening up infrastructure, data, and know-how? In natural systems, often we see competition at one level, but the need for coexistence to support a thriving system. Teams we were working with in the sprint was from a big household goods manufacturer, and they were worried about how they might be able to make their goods more affordable in the Indian market, and actually got really inspired by the forest system. Their accessibility and affordability is very important for them, and they actually, through kind of getting inspired by symbiotic relationships and the resiliency of distributed systems, they started to think about rather than seeing the many circular economies, the secondary markets, the reconditioning systems that exist all over India for household goods at a village and town level, rather than seeing themselves in competition with that, how could they utilize those systems to distribute their products by designing products for those reconditioning processes and supporting those marketplaces in using their huge resources as a global brand. And so that was really inspiring to think that, you know, they were trying to create a system of abundance. They saw various ways they could monetize it in a way that was a win-win for the system, for the local circular economies, and for them. And so that's a great example of the power of some of these ecological principles. So I'm going to finish now, but I'm going to end with one of my favorites, kind of all-time quotes that I use a lot in my circular economy work. Which is that this wonderful quote from Eric Liu and Nick Hanau from a fantastic book, which I would recommend to you if you haven't read it, The Gardens of Democracy. And I think it really articulates, for me, the true reward that the circular economy may well have to offer us, which is the idea that we all win more, or the reality, I should hope for, that we all win more when we all win more. So thank you very much for listening. I shall stop my share. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. It's still resonating. Before we go to the next phase, I want to link with what Chris was saying, that finding the ultimate case, the ultimate example of a circular project is of course very difficult. And it's because we saw that when we watched all the submissions of the students, it's such a complex issue. And therefore, within that, it has a variety of topics. And before I introduce the jury, I can tell you they had a very hard time selecting the winners. And as every team was able to pick its own topic, its own issue to tackle, that you can imagine the issues they come up with were related with food or fashion, with toys, with construction, medicines, a lot of topics. And of course that makes it very hard to make a selection. Who is the winner, right? If the variety in, diversity is enormous. Well, the good news is they selected the winners, and I would like to introduce the jury members. Invite them to come on screen together with me. Welcome everybody, and to let them all share their experience. I have a few questions for each of you, and if it's okay, Alice, the first question is for you. Working for the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, circularity as a topic is urgent but also complex. And if you look at the submissions, how did the students understand the urgency and were able to tackle the complexity?
Yes, so first of all, thank you for inviting me to be part of the jury and for inviting me to be part of this whole journey. I think that the teams, I was very impressed with the quality of the work of all of the teams, to be very honest. I think that they did a really great job in terms of working on the challenge itself and the circular economy angle as well. As you know, applying circular design, it means taking a different approach, and we discussed it with the participants actually during a specific session dedicated to it. It means that you have to build on the three principles of the circular economy, which are to eliminate waste and pollution, to keep products and material in use, and to regenerate natural systems. And so it can be very, very challenging, but also very, very ambitious, which I think is what makes working on the circular economy space so exciting, and hopefully what made the challenge exciting for the participants as well. It also means that I have to say that all circular efforts are not necessarily equal. I think some are still working on the efficiency of the current linear model, which are important. We need to address it, but we also need to shift to a circular model, which is where at the foundation we put most of our attention and focus on. And so I think we did see a lot of the teams took advantage of the challenge to really focus on, especially on the relationship we have with products and how we can multiply and how we can expand and extend in time the way we use those products. And that's really, I think, a great way of looking at the circular economy and at the circular design challenge. We saw it with actually very, very diverse opportunities within the teams. As you mentioned, there were like applications on toys, on clothing, on boats as well. So it was a very, very diverse selection of industry that were tackled by the participants. I will also say that as a jury member, I think what was one of the most exciting and part of being a jury was being inspired by the applicants and their work, and being able to kind of step away a little bit from my day job and really be inspired by their work. And I think what contributed to that is that the teams themselves were very diverse. We had a really great representativity of challenges from all over the world. And I think it makes all of the applications equally interesting and equally challenging as well. We had, I think, India, Canada, Mexico, and even France represented, which was really nice to see. And I also really appreciated the way that most of the teams worked on the community and how to build on existing communities or to create new communities in how they would deliver circular solutions. And I think it's something that is really quite unique. And I think it is also what Chris was talking about around the social angle. And I think it's quite an important way of also incorporating social and circular economy solutions. And so I think it was very inspiring and very surprising on that front.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And bridging that to my next question, as Alice was mentioning, the relationship still people feel with products, right? And that they don't want to let go and feel that it's, you know, that the circular economy is in the way if they want to keep it instead of letting it reused or bring it back. My following question is for Ruth, and let me look at it. So Ruth, you teach design for sustainable consumer behavior at TU Delft. And you will agree that in order to successfully change or shift behavior, and getting people more involved in a circular economy is quite challenging and difficult. And how successful were the teams in proposing experience to, you know, to be able to adapt to a new behavior?
Yeah, thank you, Inge. I'm happy to respond to that. And first of all, I would like to thank you for letting me participate in the jury. Like Alice, I also had a lot of fun, and it was very interesting to see all the different solutions that the teams came up with. If you look at behavior change, then it's very tricky to change the behavior of people, or to at least try to change their behavior. There's like different elements that are needed. You need ability. So as a consumer, you need to know what to change, and you need to be able to make that change. So that's the first thing. Then there's also motivation that people need. So they need to be motivated in order to act and to do the change. And last but not least, they also need a trigger. So they need a little push. And what was interesting to see is indeed in the designs, the teams try to do those different things. So, and especially the motivation, it seems like, of course people are motivated, but it's actually not so common to be motivated. If you would ask people about the environment, and they will all say, of course, we care for the climate and we don't like climate change and the circular economy is important. But if you really ask them about taking actions, then it's much more difficult for them. you see that people think like, yeah, sustainability issues, that's something for the future. We don't need to worry about it because in the future it will be fixed. That this distant element and this future-looking view is actually making it less tangible and therefore more difficult to act upon it. Also, the fact that the sustainability is like a collective problem also makes it more distant for people, and therefore they're also less likely to act on it. So this motivation and this making it like a personal thing to really act upon it is something that is really important in order to make this change happen. And luckily, we saw in many teams that actually this personal benefit was also included. And this personal benefit can be like a completely different benefit than just the sustainability benefit. So there were teams that incorporated financial benefits, for example, which makes it more interesting for individuals to act upon these new services. Another benefit that was very interesting to see is this more emotional benefit, that they were engaged and they were excited, like a surprising effect in a way. Which also can motivate people to hey, this is something interesting to pursue and something interesting to do. And last but not least, also the environmental benefits. It was made more tangible in certain solutions. And again, this can persuade individuals to really act. Because in the end, we need, of course, policies, governments need to change. We need companies to introduce these new services and these new offerings in order to introduce a circular economy. Other organizations may play a role, but individuals are also key. And through these behavior change elements that are luckily seen in these team efforts, we can actually change society for the better.
Thank you, Ruth. And it makes me think about what Alice says about community, right? So this trigger and the driver, you need others, right? And so let me ask that to Chris, I think he touched upon it in his talk as well. So, what is the role of communities? How important are they for this behavior change?
Well, pretty critical. It's all about people, in a way, of course. So, I think a lot of the technological change we're seeing is making local production much more kind of viable, but I think really what goes to the heart of the point around community is what do we want for ourselves? I think that there are questions of kind of quality of life that a dynamic local economy can support, and I think that if we remind ourselves of that principle of a fit circular system, one of the when the Ellen MacArthur Foundation first created the circular economy model, one of the principles that they put forward was this idea that it should be a kind of a distributed, not a centralized system. And so that is a kind of key principle really that we should be looking at. And I think that, on the sort of theme of behavior change, when we think about, some of the shifts that we want to see with regards to people's relationship to consumption, I think that, building, and also kind of becoming more invested in consumption in a kind of strange kind of way. I don't necessarily mean invested in kind of driving more linear consumption, but what I mean is, if we're wanting people to be more invested in the economy and the value of the things in their lives, then clearly being able to, build, relationships with producers, it often sounds like a kind of very much a sort of romantic view of the past. I don't think it is necessarily. I think it's going to be a very high tech part of our future. But I do think that, we can create much more sort of meaningful relationships with the production system, obviously in a kind of local, in a local economy where we literally are just kind of more part of that system. We can create far more efficient relationships. I shouldn't use the word efficiency, should I? But we can create better relationships between supply and demand, potentially in shorter loops. We're not just having to produce all this stuff without understanding demand and without having a customer there. So there are lots of advantages, particularly before we see the energy transition complete. There are lots of environmental benefits to sort of transporting things around less. And as I said, it's just technically possible to produce more locally. So there are a number of advantages. And I think undoubtedly one of the big macro shifts to the sort of shape of the economy will be a greater degree of localization. I think that's inevitable given the technologies. But yeah, very important. The community element, I think, is so key. We have to feel invested, I think, in the economic system, and it has to be invested in us. So it's a sort of two-way thing if we want to see some of the behavior changes.
And let me go to Robert for a more general question. As of course this challenge is all about students, actually new generation of designers, right? And how important would you say to Robert, as one of the initiators of this challenge, which is Philips, what is the role? Why is it so important to engage these new generation of designers?
Yeah, thanks. Great question. And of course, first of all, let me reiterate what has been said also. It's a hugely inspiring experience, also for me personally, and a great pleasure to engage with the students and to see all these great ideas coming around. I think we all recognize the urgent need for change, and younger people maybe even more so, right? Just biological, next generation will be exposed a little bit longer to the man-made environment that we are creating experience today. Interestingly, I think many of the complex issues that we see will not only become more pressing for future generations, but many of them are also man-made and often originated exactly from not thinking in the context of the relevant systems that Chris spoke about. So talking about climate change, resource depletion, biodiversity loss, but also the increasing social inequalities that we see, where 1% of the world owns basically 90% of everything, and where half of mankind does not have access to healthcare and never sees a doctor in their life. So to me, designers and the next generation of designers, you guys hold a very important key. The true power of design is to reshape literally everything, right? Designers can transform the world. You can reduce complexity and contextualize it in a meaningful way to empower better decisions and better lives. Now, that is a key reason to engage designers, and especially the next generation. So I think design really can and should address these deeply systemic and institutional challenges that we face in designing products, services, experience, and even systems to improve people's lives while respecting the planetary boundary conditions. That is the true power of design. I think new generations are more aware of that than anybody. What we should think about is on how to empower the next generation of designers to take on this challenge in a more effective, most effective way to really drive scale and speed, because we have only very limited time before we hit a couple of these tipping points and ecosystems also. And mentoring can be one of the means to create bigger impact faster. So really transferring also organizational knowledge, contextual knowledge to help the next generation of designers to really make most impact with the brilliant ideas that we have seen and that we are seeing around of us. Maybe wrapping up this longer answer to your short question is, in the end, for me, it really comes down to designing with intent and designing with compassion. And Bill McDonough had a very nice way of phrasing that, which I wanted to quote, right? He said, we need to design for the benefit of the children of all species for all times. That's the power of design and the next generation of designers.
Thank you. Thank you. No comments on that. And in talking about the power of design, let me ask you a question, Shani. That the students went through different rounds, right? And the rounds were based on phases, design phases. You, as an expert on design thinking, what would you say is the relevance of that, the research and the ideation? Why is it irrelevant to come up with a solution, as finally the students did?
Sure. First off, echoing a number of my fellow jurors already, I have to thank you for having me as a jury member. And I'm quite inspired by knowing that we have such amazing next generation talents So I think we're in very good hands, right? Given what we've been able to see so far. So that's been very inspirational and refreshing for sure. But I think a little bit of perspective around this question. I think when we reflect on the various methods to problem solving, there are so many terms and so many labels that are oftentimes associated with it, whether it's, design thinking or some other type of method. And I think ultimately at the crux of all of this is the deep understanding of people and their connection to other parts of the world, to systems, to relationships, and to all these kind of nuances that you really can't get at unless you tackle the process itself. Process really is everything. I mean, there's no solution without process, and there certainly isn't any breakthrough innovation without taking critical steps in the process, which is ultimately why I think it was so important to see from our students the way that they approached really thoughtfully the various steps that go into design thinking. I think when we think of particularly circular systems and creating innovation around that, yes, it's understanding the people, like I said before, but it's the relationship also of the people to the systems. And how are you going to get at that? Well, of course, you have to do very deep analysis. And so the depth is important, but also the breadth. And then thinking about that with a lens of inclusivity, right? So that your research is comprehensive, but it's also adaptive for an inclusive lens. So that when you do get to the point of starting to create solutions, they're equitable, right? They've considered a great breadth and depth and diversity. So that analysis piece is huge, as we know. It gets us to a deeper understanding. It forces us oftentimes to question assumptions that we might have, and then to ultimately to gain insights. And this insights kind of step is where that ideation piece is so critical, and you get the richness of concepts. And I think, looking at a lot of the submissions, we saw that springboard of deep analysis that happened to enable all these various types of ideation to come emerge to the surface, right? Which is the opportunity for us to then move into potential solutions. And of course, I think when we're thinking about solutions, we want to make sure that they're relevant. And we want to make sure that a lot of due diligence has been placed in thinking about the solutions. And when we were looking at a number of the projects that came our way, I think a critical piece of that was making sure that real due diligence was shown, there was evidence of that, and that there was also a cornerstone of ethics and objectivity held when it came to the way that the students really approached the kind of ideation part of things. And then this kind of final step around like testing. I mean, you have to test, right? Like how could you actually deem a solution worthy without actually testing it, without being able to have the experience being truly sensed and then responded to by the folks who it's going to serve, right? By the system that it's going to operate in. So the testing is a really critical step. It allows us as designers, as citizen designers too, right? As the people who are part of the design process, who might not have the design label, but are huge characters in creating a solution. It allows us to say, okay, well, what's working, what's not? How do we tweak along the way? How do we validate and how do we improve the solution as we go? And I think that's been really critical in seeing the way that the work has come to us, that there's been that step around testing and putting it into the world and seeing how it really would function in the world. So these steps, amongst others, right, are critical in the design process, but I think emphasizing how important it is to really go deep and thoughtful around this is even in some ways more important than the outcome, right? Because you're not going to get an amazing, relevant breakthrough innovation without that real care around the process itself. So I've been happy to see that the work that's come to us as jurors has been thoughtful and thinking through all these steps. And definitely, like I said, looking forward to what this next generation of designers are going to create to change our world.
Thank you. And then we come to our my last question. Last but not least, I'm going to ask that to Lara. And Lara, as you are the professor in transdisciplinary design, and of course this challenge is about a real case, right? Finding a real issue and diving into that. I would like to ask you how relevant, how important it is to get hands-on experience, and do that together with real persons. Besides, going to your university, as all the students are still part of the university, they're studying. How important is that?
Yeah, thanks for this questioning, and thanks for inviting me to be part of this. Working with students is part of my life. It's what I do for a living. So it's been exciting to see students from other places in the world to engage with important, complex issues. I think it's very important, the reality. I try to do that in my own teaching as well. And I think engaging with reality starts with you. The student starts with you, the designer. And I think essentially recognizing yourself and your position in the world as a point of departure, and how you're going to engage with large systems in one way, and then the people and organizations involved in the systems in a different level. So I think that research, and I'm going to echo and probably repeat what my colleagues have said earlier, is key to that. Not only, and I think the teams are pretty good in doing that, not shallow research, but in depth, going out in the world, engaging with people, and try to understand where they're coming from and what is the communities they belong to. I think that's an important aspect that was also mentioned earlier. And but also, what are the politics involved in all of the systems that people belong to and the communities they belong to? And don't assume people are going to come from the same place you're coming from, and recognize their lived experience most than anything. I think this is crucial for us to be able to even begin to talk about environmental issues and circular economy, because as we know, environmental issues are tightly connected with social issues and social justice, the environmental justice, right? Some terms that have emerged recently connecting the two. So as we do so in the process that Shanti just described brilliantly, I think it's essential that we are able to zoom in and out with larger systemic issues, be able to see the failures involved in the current systems, being able to see the politics of all that, and then zoom into the individual, the people, the person, and the communities, and be able to review, how they are not just consumers, but how they are human beings in the world. So I think that's my main message. I think for us to be able to do that, to be able to engage seriously, right, with complex issues and real issues, as you're asking, I think it's important that students do that from a critical thinking perspective. It's not only applying a set of tools. These help, they're creative aids, but it's thinking about things and recognizing the conflict involved in the realities you're dealing with and the industries you're dealing with, and incorporating that in your process. So I think that for me, most of all, the critical thinking is more than anything the most crucial tool that students can have in dealing with real problems and in the real world, as you said. But I was excited to see that has emerged in in the projects that we saw. I had I had a fun time reviewing the projects. They were engaging. So thanks, and excited to hear the final result.
Thank you. I'm curious as well, and let's see where the critical thinking has been leading to. Let me look if we are on time. We are on time. Okay. So that's. I would like to thank you, all the jury members, and let's go to the moment we have all been waiting for: the announcement of the winners. And for that, I'm going to invite Robert to do the honors, and I would like to, to let him explain why the winners have become the winners, and he will do that. In the order, starting with the third prize winners, then the second, and then the first. So listen carefully, and but Robert will tell you all about it. So I leave it up to him. Robert, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much. What a pleasure and what an honor. So this is indeed the moment that everybody has been waiting for, a little bit less than an hour that you had announced in the beginning. But let's find out who the winners are of the 2021 Student Service Design Challenge. Out of the 70 teams who initially submitted their proposals back in January, 27 teams were selected to go into the following rounds. So these 27 teams really represent schools and universities from all around the world. And they've been working for 5 months. You have been working for 5 months, developing initial proposals through research, through getting to know the users and the stakeholders, through ideation and testing, to come to the final service concepts that were presented and judged by the jury. Before I announce the winners, I would really like to congratulate all the teams, everybody. We as a jury were really impressed by your work and by the commitment that you all have shown to have a positive impact on a topic that deserves our full attention. So I can tell you that we had a very hard time selecting the winners because many concepts really inspired us deeply. As Inge said, I will first announce the third place, then the second, and finally the first place and the winner of the challenge. Now, small surprise, because it was so difficult, we said this year we will have 2 third prizes. And the third place winners are Team Hula Hoops from Politecnico di Milano and Team Balki Bananas from the University of Ljubljana, both master students in product service design and industrial design respectively. Congratulations. Now, the second place winner is Team Comali, Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, bachelor students in industrial design. Congratulations. And now drum roll, of course, the first place and the winner of the Student Service Design Challenge is Team Radar from the Delhi Technical University, bachelor students of design. Congratulations. And with that, I believe we wanted to share a brief video.
With the rising numbers of global vaccinations, have we ever thought about where do syringes go after we get vaccinated? Have we taken into account the colossal amount of waste it is generating? Greetings, we are Team Radar. We live in the city of Delhi, the capital of India, and at the heart of the city lies the 8th wonder of the world. This towering mess became an immortal flame of curiosity that would drive us for the next 4 months. So, why do we care? India produces 2 billion tons of waste each year. Of this, 15% is biomedical waste, and most of this waste ends up being incinerated or simply in a landfill. With the COVID vaccination numbers on the rise, this waste is multiplied 7 times. Our country's $5 billion healthcare industry has been predicted to reach $130 billion by the end of 2030. As the rubbish piles up, the amount of biomedical waste in these landfills will only increase. And if things don't change, no number of landfills and recycling programs will be able to keep up with this growing problem. Our research led us to the fact that 95% of this waste can be put to better use. Now, we just had to find out how. In a bid to understand the problem space better, we spoke to people who are an integral part of this waste system. And after visiting 2 waste segregating facilities, we found out that even after strict guidelines, sharps waste gets mixed up with general waste. Syringes are often missegregated and end up in incinerators, thereby releasing hazardous toxins into the environment. And syringes that end up in landfills often get circulated illegally and are dangerously reused. After having understood the system, we went on to understand our users more closely. We found out that the primary concern for any nurse or doctor is always patient care. This makes proper segregation of waste an additional responsibility. Due to the issues at the source, waste workers are often overlooked in the entire waste system. Improper segregation exposes them to needle stick injuries, and logistical problems force them into collecting biomedical waste with their bare hands. This brings us to the story of 3 hospitals. At Hospital A, the waste is managed by a local biomedical waste treatment plant located in the outskirts of the city. The overworked attendants tend to throw unsegregated syringes into waste bins, and these open needles rip the waste bags during transportation. This puts the waste workers at the risk of needle stick injuries and diseases. Hospital B buries their needle waste inside a sharps pit. The hospital spends a large amount of money creating the pit. However, they are unable to anticipate the capacity of waste generated, and the sharps pit fills up much earlier than expected. Do you see a similarity between them? Both Hospital A and B cannot manage their sharps waste in an ecological, ethical, and efficient way. Let's look at Hospital C now. Hospital C has an in-house autoclave machine installed that can autoclave their own syringe waste. However, the machine is used only twice a week. The autoclave can be used for sterilization on other days, but it remains underutilized. This is where we had our breakthrough. What if we had a service that could be mutually beneficial for both these hospital groups? What if we could also empower the community of overlooked workers by bringing the syringe waste back into the economy? Introducing Radar X. Based on a decentralized network, Radar X connects hospitals with poor sharps waste management to hospitals with underutilized autoclaves. With our service, Hospital A can manage their waste properly and dispose of it efficiently, ensuring the safety of the waste workers down the chain. Hospital B does not have to worry about making sharps pits. Instead, they can recover the materials. And Hospital C will be able to use their underutilized autoclaves to their full potential while earning extra cash. Let's look at a hospital using our service now. An administrator from a hospital registers on the Radar X website and enters their waste details. The AI-enabled system then suggests the most suitable plan, wherein Radar X picks up the sharps waste thrice a week from the healthcare facility. Login credentials are then released for the administrators. Then Aditya, another administrator, sets up an installation date on the Radar X app. The Radar X executives meet Aditya and set up the Radar X needle cutters with safety boxes at various injection stations around the hospital. Once set up, the needle cutters automatically segregate the syringe. On a pre-scheduled day, once the boxes get full up to 3/4 of their capacity, the app notifies Aditya that a collection truck is on its way. On arriving at the hospital, the Radar X executive locates the safety box and scans the barcode on top to open it. Once open, he replaces an almost full waste box with a disinfected one. He repeats this process for all the safety boxes in the hospital facility. The Radar X executive loads the waste containers onto the truck and leaves for the next collection site. Having collected waste from all hospitals, the executive takes it to an autoclaving facility. Now, the containers are scanned, emptied, and the waste is autoclaved or disinfected. The disinfected needles and barrels are collected and taken to a material recovery center. The safety boxes are disinfected as well and can be redistributed to hospitals on the forthcoming collection and replacement days.
I hope you liked the video, Robert. And sorry, I wanted to ask you, why did they win?
Yeah, amazing. So first of all, hi Team Radar. Great to see you. Also, I see them somewhere backstage already. They will be on the stage very shortly. If you watch this video, just which of course is a very short summary of the work that the team has been doing, you see how many different problems elegantly have been addressed and brought together, talking about systems designer. So really, the solution addresses a very relevant problem around the globe. If you think about the waste in the healthcare industry, so hospital beds produce about 13 kilograms waste per bed per day, of which a quarter about is hazardous. Together with the CO2 emissions, this makes healthcare one of the most polluting sectors, and hospitals some of the most polluting buildings in our community. Addressing this with a scalable business model that really brings together both the environmental and the social impact, the latter also together with the waste workers, really has impressed us. And what I want to add is, if you talk about the social challenges that we're talking about, also making healthcare accessible to hundreds of millions of people in the decades to come, we need to find urgently ways to really address this also. So we need to find ways to build resilient, inclusive, and environmentally acceptable healthcare system. So spot on, Team Radar. And hello. Fantastic to see you. It must have been quite a journey. How do you feel? Yeah?
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for being with us today. Let me ask you a couple of questions because we were really intrigued, of course, and all wanted to know a little bit more. So let me start with, how did you identify the problem in the problem space? Because medical waste isn't that obvious and recognizable.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Robert. I think firstly, I also want to thank everybody at Service Design Challenge for giving us the opportunity to participate. And to answer your question, I think I completely agree. It's a little hard to come by, but at the same time, given today's scenario, it's almost impossible not to come across some sort of medical waste given the COVID scenario. We're using masks, we're using personal protective equipment almost on a daily basis. And also we're discarding them on a daily basis as well. So I think this is something that caught our eye, the fact that it's been used on a daily basis, that it needs to be discarded. And that's when we started looking into this more purposefully. And I think naturally when we looked at it closely, our entire horizon expanded to biomedical waste organically.
Very clear. Thanks so much, Ajaf. That's very well explained. And I can imagine that the COVID crisis that is hitting many countries, but also India especially hard, really must have influenced the team dynamics, your daily life, of course, but also will have influenced the way how you did research, right? So maybe that's the next question also. Tell me a little bit about the research that you did.
Thanks, Robert. So for the research, we created a set of guidelines or the research plans. So this including, knowing the users, their pain points through user interviews, field visit to various medical waste treatment plants, many government hospitals, many non-government hospitals, education institutes, that basically focuses on this particular domain. We also delve into the grievance this domain creates for other industries as well. So through literature surveys, through research papers and all. But in particularly, after talking to the users and knowing their story, their side of the story, this kind of helped us, create a better ecosystem or understand. It helped us understand ecosystem in a much better way and help us create a better solution for it.
That is clear. Thanks so much. So then, of course, obviously, the next question is: Did you test Radar X as a concept, and what did you find out? And are the hospitals at all keen in joining such a shared service model? So, what is the potential to scale this and also scale it as a business?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Robert. So, indeed, as you said, we did validate our solution with our secondary users. We went around and based on their feedback, we reiterated and iterated multiple times over our service concept and changed it accordingly, which gave us the final solution that we have right here. And owing to the fact, yes, borrowing from that, some of the key points that we found out, which we later down plotted them into our future roadmap, which went in the format of where we can look forward to. Maybe we can look towards rural health facilities and trying to bring the syringe material that is being disposed of back into the system and back into the hospitals itself. And going ahead into hospitals, how keen they might be to join this, that is unfortunately not the best place to start with, because owing to the grim situation that we were in due to the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, we weren't able to reach out to hospitals as such yet, but we do plan to. And apart from them, we also want to reach out to the existing biomedical treatment facilities as well, so that we can better understand their processes and how they can partner with us. And in terms of business, as we have here explained in a brief summary, it expands into much more in a decentralized network that provides for a transparent supply chain management again. And this again saves energy and material for that is being from incinerated, as well as you suggested, what CO2 emissions. And this closed loop system that we have successfully proposed is again going to prevent this channels of malicious systems and prevent it from going there. So yeah, that's where to see it.
Thanks, Akash. And what we appreciated as jury also that you are stepping into a problem at a large scale and really driving change there, right? There are always ways to optimize it further and really move towards more circular solutions and continue to optimize the services. But you are addressing a real problem at a real scale, which makes a difference. So that's fantastic. Maybe about the challenge itself, looking at you, what did you learn that you had not expected, that you had not learned at school? What did you learn during the challenge that you want to share with us?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So one thing that definitely stood out for us was being able to follow the entire design thinking model, so religiously. Like we were aware with that entire model previously, but we were just able to carry that out in such depth that it really, enriched our understanding. And finding tools at each steps that would, are the best applicable in that particular situation for us. And then just trusting the process that, okay, this is going to lead us to the best possible result that we can get from this step. I think that was something that definitely stood out for us. Something else would also be like building upon feedback that we were being provided with. And the challenge did a great job at enabling us to do that, because our challenge coach and our IBM coaches, they were giving us, regular feedback. And I think that really widened our perspective and expanded our scope of work, because that was, we were regularly being told that this is what you can do better. So that was definitely another great thing. And last but not the least, definitely the opportunity to devise an entire service. So that was something that none of us have ever, really previously worked upon. And it's just something so new to us and also so intriguing and fascinating. And the challenge enabled us to, build a solution from scratch while considering factors like feasibility, impact, and also the entire new perspective of thinking from a business oriented point of view. So I think we definitely got a lot of new experiences that we are really grateful for.
Thanks so much. So it's really testing these concepts in practice, end to end. And I also heard a big shout out and kudos to the challenge coaches. And I guess that goes for all the teams. So on this side, also from me and on behalf of the jury, big compliments and thanks to the coaches. So we haven't heard from Ipshita yet. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what made this challenge special for you. What is the thing, if you look back in general, that made these 5 months commemorable?
Yeah, I think the challenge was really special because of the fact that all 5 of us worked really enthusiastically and dedicatedly to. And at each step, we were being guided, be it like the detailed brief that you provided, or the toolbox. And another highlight for the challenge were like the regular coaching sessions with Frank and Apurva. So they were really insightful, and we were always looking up for them. And looking back at the journey that we followed, like the complete design process and various methodologies at, so like we got lost and we got stuck, so we kind of revisited the previous step, reiterated, figured out where we are going wrong, and as a team took a step and like took a retour towards direction, and we move forward. Looking back at the 5 steps, the 5 months, we started off with like a great problem, crossing all the hurdles that came across our path, and finally devising the service. It has all been like a roller coaster ride for all of us. And a lot of people, our mentors, professors, parents, and our peers have contributed to this journey of ours and has made this design challenge like most wholesome and rewarding experiences for all of us. And thank you for providing us like the platform and this great opportunity. So thank you so much.
Great to hear. And it's still amazing to me that we can do this with people all around the world, right? And connecting, working on these topics together. And the slight glitches in the internet connections, Ipshita, that just remind us that you are actually sitting somewhere on a different part of this planet. So let's be grateful that we have these opportunities to connect and tackle these challenges together. Fantastic. Great to see you. Great to meet you also in this this live stream. Congratulations from the bottom of my heart, also on behalf of the jury. You really deserve this. I'm looking very much forward to welcoming you, all of you, in the Design in Residence at Philips, where we will have the opportunity to learn from our experts, also continue to improve your solutions with the mentorship of our team. So, again, I would like to state that to me, and surely all the other jury members, all 27 teams are true winners. And it really makes me proud and very humble at the same time to see so many great, refreshing, unorthodox ideas that positively contribute to circular economy and really tackling these complex issues that we are facing as climate change, as food waste, or the plastic soup. So congrats to you all, and see you at the Dutch Design Week, where you will find the concept and inspiring is sufficient.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert. I'm not sure you want to add something more. And I saw them being very happy, and very, of course, looking forward to the designer residence at Philips. And
I'm just very grateful. I want to say deeply inspiring. Great to see all the teams from all around the world. And I think we have picked rightful winners, but as said, all the teams were doing their best, deeply inspired, deeply committed, and great to see this generation of designers.
Thank you, Robert. Then this is the end of the ceremony. Thank you all for watching, but don't leave yet. Although we are a bit ahead of time, I would like to say that we have a page ready, and it will be shared with you in the chat. It's still a hidden link. And there you will see also the videos of the 3 other winners. Of course, we weren't able to show them to you, but do watch them. There was also other materials from them. They all made a service blueprint and a business model. They filled in the business model canvas, and later on also the prototype will be added. So there's a lot of inspiration. You can find them. And something else that I really would like to stretch out is that this year, for the first time, we have 4 honorable mentions. And that is because the jury found a few teams and their submissions exceptional in on a specific criteria. Every submission is valued on 6 criteria. And some of the teams, they stood out on one of these criteria, and they were also mentioned on the webpage. So as I'm directing this to the students, your name might be there with an honorable mention. You're not mentioned now, but do have a look at it. And I want to congratulate you all. Of course, all 27 are winners. Remember, we started with 70 teams, and there was quite a lot from all over the globe. One final thing is that we will add all the other submissions later on the website, the challenge website. And but like Robert was saying, we will be part of the Dutch Design Week in October. There will be an exhibition like last year, and there you can watch in depth for everything that the team has done, including we introduce the teams to you. And so don't forget, watch our post on LinkedIn, our challenge page, or on the website where we announce when the exhibition will be there and how you can visit it online or in Eindhoven if you're able to go to Eindhoven. So with that, I would like to thank you. And I want to thank Rocca and the Barcelona Design Week. You don't see her, but Isabel is still sitting next to me. And so we would like to thank you both, thank you all, and to watch this ceremony. We hoped it inspired you and to do something. And even if you're not a young student anymore, a young designer, it will be still inspiring to watch all the submissions and see what you can do to contribute to a circular economy. Thank you very much. See you next year here at the Rocca Gallery or in Eindhoven in October. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.